Hello, everyone, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Aaron, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Tommy. Hello,
Hello.
Tommy. And we have a special guest. His name is Ron, and today we're just gonna talk about soaps, all different kinds of soaps.
I'm happy to be here. I've always wanted to do one of these soap podcasts. I've watched General Hospital for 49 years
Oh
Wow.
wow!
since I was 3, and now I'm 52. So 49 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I've been watching Days since '90. Well, probably since I was born. I'm sure as a baby, my mom or grandmother watched it with me, just sitting there.
In utero. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we joke. My mom's like, "You were born at 1:10." That was during the second half of Days.
I love that.
So, what is like your earliest memory of General Hospital?
Okay, well, I was supposed to be taking a nap in the living room, and apparently I was watching General Hospital at the time that Heather had given up Stephen Lars and was trying to get him back from Diana, and was kind of going after Diana, apparently, because what happened was I was talking to my mom one day, and she thought I was taking a nap, at 3 o'clock. And I said, I'm so worried about Diana. She just cries and cries. And I started talking about Heather and Alice and Stephen Lars. And she kind of pieced it together that I was watching General Hospital. And so I had taken my nap. And it seemed like I have never, ever stopped. And one of my earliest memories was actually when Heather came upon the dead body of Diana, who was murdered, and she wrote Anne in the blood. And like, what an iconic image. It's
Oh
like,
my God.
I'll never forget that. And I remember Leslie and Monica and the Quartermains, and of course, the left-handed boy and the Ice Princess. That was like it really made an impression.
Was that with Stavros or Stefan? The ice
Mikos.
princess?
Well, it was Mikos Cassadine. Yeah, it was
Oh, okay.
Helena's husband. That's why Helena's been
Oh,
mad at Luke and Laura. She put a curse on him, and that curse has held steady since 1981, and they still really haven't escaped it.
so then it's safe to assume that you watched Luke and Laura's wedding.
Oh, of course, yes. I skipped school. That was
Oh, did
pre-VCR.
you?
Yeah, I did. I left after 8th period. I just took off. I just walked home, and I was supposed to be in band, and I got written up and got detention, but it was worth it.
Worth it.
You had to see it.
My mom has told me similar stories like that about Bo and Hope, where she's like,
Oh yeah.
I had to go home. I was like, man, I wish I could have done that.
All these years later, I'm glad I did it. And I knew back then, if I just take off and go home, no matter how much trouble I get in with the school, I'll be glad I did it. I got to see this. I got to be there.
And back then, wasn't it Elizabeth Taylor that played Helena?
She was Helena. Yes. She's the one who put the curse on them. Yes. Yes. She was a fan in real life. So they got her to be on the show. And she was like, I cursed you. Look, it still gives me chills because I still remember it. It's like it was yesterday.
I love when big celebrities talk about the soaps they love. They're just like, see, we all love them.
And it's so nice when they don't put it down, because it's like, it means so much to so many people. It's like, I like people that appreciate it. Betty Davis was a big soap fan.
Julia Roberts always used to talk about Days.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Were you into any of the other ABC soaps?
Well, my mother watched Ryan's Hope, all my children, and One Life to Live. So I kind of grew up sort of watching those on the summertime. And if I was home from school sick, or if it was the vacations, I have very clear memory of, there's this neighborhood that's about 5 minutes away from where we live with really fancy houses and stuff. I remember as a little boy, I always just assumed that was where One Life to Live took place, because there was all the nice fancy houses and stuff. And it's funny that you think like these soaps are like integrate into your life, and they seem real and they feel real. And so I always thought of this place called Hart's Hill as like, oh, that's where Phoebe Tyler lives, probably. This big mansion. And Erica. So yeah, I remember all of them. I remember the meltdown that Karen Bullock, Judith Light, had on the stand when she was on trial. That's like the greatest moment of all times. And Thursdays, when I was a little boy, my grandmother would take care of me, and I used to watch Days of Our Lives with her. And Another World, which actually made I was terrified as a child of Rachel. but I was obsessed with Iris. You can tell I was gay because I loved Iris, her fabulousness, the blonde hair, the deep voice, But Rachel scared the crap out of me. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I had a similar experience. She kind of scared me. Also.
Kind of
That was my mom's and my grandmother's soap, Days in Another World.
That was my grandmother's. Yes.
Days has always been our show. Like we had a little lunch get together recently, and we were talking about Days like the family members.
And I've always kept track of Days my whole life. So I watched them when big things were happening. I remember back in the 90s, my grandfather was a contractor, and he called me one day. He had a table saw, and he almost cut his finger off. I had to take him to the emergency room. So I remember sitting in the emergency room on the TV, and I was watching when Vivian had Carly buried alive in the coffin, and like my grandfather's in there getting, I don't know, microsurgery, his finger sewn back on. And I'm just watching like Vivian in this coffin. It's like I had to see it. I was so glad that they had it on the TV in the waiting room.
When I would go to the dentist, the soaps would be playing on the TV, and they'd be like, "Oh, here, let me turn this." I'm like, "Don't you dare!"
I think someone tried to come out and turn it too. That's right. Someone came out and turned it. I said, "No, I got to put it back. She's buried alive. Carly's buried alive. What are you doing?"
That's one of my favorite Days storylines. I love Crystal. Oh, I heart her so much. Yeah, I just always, we're BFFs, but at this point, we talked to her once. So I call her by her first name.
I am a huge fan of Louise Sorel.
I love her.
Yeah, I was like obsessed with Santa Barbara, and my favorite character, other than Julia, Nancy Lee Grant is like my superhero, but other than her was Augusta Lockridge, and Louise Sorel, fabulous.
I started Santa Barbara on YouTube because they have like the first 500 episodes.
Really?
Yeah. If you need playlists, I can send them to you.
I would like to see that.
But I only watched like the first 20-25 episodes. And so I haven't seen Nancy Lee Grant. But I was like, oh, it's Vivian.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Tommy got me to watch Santa Barbara, and he didn't tell me Vivian was on there. And I heard her voice. I'm like, you should have let me. I would have watched the show just because of her.
Santa Barbara.
But I was also. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, as it got going, it had this like kind of dark and brooding quality to it. It's really a wonderful, distinctive show. They had like tremendous depth and just had this like feeling to it. It was on at 3:00, but it still felt like you were watching it at night. I think by then
it felt like a prime time soap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
The production value on it was amazing.
Oh yeah, back then.
And even the pacing, it just felt very prime time.
It was like that. Yes. You watch these old soaps and like you see in the credits, like when the number of producers and assistant directors and writers goes on and on and on. And you see like, back then, they do a wonderful job now. They do the best that they can with what they got. But you think back then they had so much more time and people and money, and it was an amazing time for soaps.
Well, I think then they used to film like one episode a day. Now they film like multiple episodes a day.
Oh yeah,
but they used to have rehearsals like all day and then film the final shot, so they had time to perfect the scene.
When people criticize soaps, I'm like, hold up, no. Do you know how much goes into producing a soap? Like we're doing 8 episodes a week. They have no budget. They're having to come up. I'm like, no, don't even talk bad about. I come for you if you. If I don't watch the show, even if I don't watch it, I'm like, don't you talk bad about The Young and the Restless.
Exactly what they're doing. It's really amazing. I had Kathleen Gaddy come to one of my classes one time through Google Meet, and she was talking about the fact that they have to do their own rehearsals, like on their own, like with their at home or quickly in the dressing room with their scene partners and stuff. And I remember reading back in the 70s, Ruth Warwick talked about how they had what they called red chairs in All My Children. They would rehearse in the morning. They would like kind of like go through it in the morning, do a run through. Then they would all meet in the afternoon. They called it red chairs. They would all meet, and the director would go over like each of their performances. They'd give them notes. They'd go take the notes, do it again, then do a dress rehearsal, then tape it. And now it's kind of like, I guess, well, from what I understand, you get in, you get dressed, you go on, you're on camera, you do it. Yeah. And it's miraculous how good they are.
It's the closest thing to theater, I guess, that you could get that's on screen.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
And Days, they they at one point were 8 or 9 months ahead of schedule until
Right.
COVID happened, and then who knows what they're at right now.
Mm.
They have to be at least 3 months ahead because they churn them out.
Oh yeah, they crank them out. I'm like, wow.
They're probably 8 months ahead again.
It's really amazing what they do. Yeah. And Days was lucky when COVID hit because they were the only one not to go off the air, you know?
That was like the one time I wasn't complaining about it.
It's like, yay. For once.
Because the bad part about it is you don't have, you can't gauge fan reaction to a story and change it
Right.
if it's not popular. Because you already have like a year's worth of episodes.
Yeah, it's like, well, crap, we gotta see this through.
It's true, and they really need to be. You know, it's better if they can be more responsive. But I don't know how they gauge reaction with all the. I mean, you see what goes on Twitter. It's like there's so much fighting and so much negativity. It seems like people like nothing, but then as soon as if God forbid it goes off the air, they'll be like, I remember
Soap fans we're unique.
We're always quitting.
We're hard to please.
Never watching again, but
that's right.
My grandmother this weekend said, she's like, those writers at Days, they've gone too crazy. I'm like, Anna, it's good. I'm like,
she thinks they got too crazy now. She didn't think that.
I know.
Well, just like, I guess, just not crazy like in that sense, but just she's not liking the storylines, I guess. So that's kind of her version of they just gone too crazy, but she still watches every day.
Yeah. Yep.
Because there was a time when she's like, how do I watch it on the app? So now that's how she watches it. She just watches it now just on the app because
good for her. Yeah.
It's easier, but she doesn't miss it.
Does she know about Beyond Salem?
I told her and she was like, well, you're going to have to remind me. Like,
show me how to find it on the app.
Yeah, that's what she was like, you're going to have to show me where to find it.
It has been great to see Jack A. Harry and Marla Gibbs. Yes. Oh my gosh, what an amazing thing to have that reunion. I've been watching that. Yeah,
I'm sure that was fun for the actors too.
Oh yeah. Jack A. Harry's amazing. She can take whatever and make it into, fabulous. And these older actors, I think one of the great things about soaps are these older actresses, actors, but that you have that would be could be more marginalized by a primetime show. But you have people like that. I mean, Marla Gibbs is in her 80s, and people can come on and make such an impression as a recurring character, like Vernee Watson on General Hospital is just like amazing. To have that quality of actor, and they have a situation where you can discover someone new, like Kathleen Gaddy. That's what soaps were always so great for, especially in the old days, the ones in New York, the theater people, they'd have them on, and sometimes they would just like catch fire and become like legendary. And that's one of the things that I really love about soaps is the way that you can see someone in a tiny role, or like maybe just as a guest star for one day, and then something about it, they just bring so much to it that they become someone who's on it more and more and more, and before you know it, it's like you can't imagine the time when this person wasn't part of the canvas. And that's one of the great things about soap operas.
Mm-hmm. And Jack A. Harry being on there, she's bringing fans from not just the 80s but the 90s because of Sister,
right?
And then Marla from. There's just all these times just coming together for that one little slot. People tuned in for that. Because I loved Lisa on Sister. She was my favorite.
I love Sandra Clark from 227.
I just started 227. So I love her too. So.
Oh my gosh, she was amazing. Yeah,
she's like making waves everywhere. She was on Pose. She's on some Lifetime movies.
Yeah.
Days, really? I'm like, wow. She was like, no, I'm tired of. I want to be busy. She's staying.
Good for her.
When I saw the headline that she was going to be on Pose, I was like, oh no, she's leaving Days.
That's what I thought too.
But then she came back and on contract, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, I got scared too. Don't worry.
She's one of those people that you just can't take your eyes off of. She's so electrifying.
She feels the scene.
Yeah,
because she was on Another World too, so I like that she wasn't in Another World.
Okay. She was, yeah.
So I like that she still embraces her soap days.
Yeah, she was Lily Mason, right?
I think her name was Another World.
Oh, I think that was before your time. Well, it was pre-227, so
my mom watched it, but it was one of those things I was too young to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like Days, the storylines were very dramatic and campy.
I'm a late comer to soaps. I didn't start watching until I was like 14 because I wasn't allowed to. But they always had it on, and they'd be like, leave the room, go play.
I still think Days is the reason I'm scared to be buried alive.
When I was one June, like after finals, like the days were shorter because we were just going into finals. I would come home and she'd have Days on, and I'd start asking questions. And every day I would stay a little bit longer. And by midsummer, I was like, nah, Days is coming on. And then I would start recording it, and we'd either watch it at night together or on the weekend. So.
It's funny, back in the old days, you couldn't just look stuff up online because I started watching As the World Turns in the mid 2000s, and it was like I was so interested, and then I would just go online and like look up who these people were and like find out any question you had, you could just find out instantly. But back in the 80s, when I started watching Santa Barbara, I was like pretty well into it, and it was like you just had to do the best you could. Yeah, you know.
When I was in college, this lady I worked for, she watched Dark Shadows, and I had researched so much about it, but I talked to her like I had watched it. And she's like, when did you watch this? Like, oh, I haven't. I just did research. She's like, dang, I thought you watched it. It's like, well, I was bored one night.
So I'm a dental assistant, and I used to work at a dental office that had like 9 operatories, and there was TVs in every room, and I used to put my soaps on in every room and take the remotes away so the patients couldn't change. And that's how I used to watch As the World Turns.
Oh my gosh!
Because I started watching in like the mid 2000s when Luke came out of the closet.
Meets.
He was a gay character, so every day at 2:00 I had every room As the World Turns on.
I started watching because of that, because I thought this is so amazing, like a core. You know, I didn't really know much about it, but there was the core character who'd come out as gay, and so I would watch it at first. I would tape it, and I would think to myself, "I'm only going to watch Luke because I only want to see the storyline." But then I would turn the volume down as I fast forward. But then I would see like Maura West and Kelly Minahan Hensley. Just their faces were so amazing that I would like start to watch just Luke and just Emily and just Carly. Then before I knew it, I was like, this show is amazing.
Yeah, no, I was the same way. I was like, I'm just gonna watch for Luke, and then I got into Carly and whatever her husband names, and then Meg. Trying to and I was just like, oh my god, I've never seen this show.
I liked Gwen and Will.
Oh yeah,
yes, Gwen and Will.
Yes, that was a really interesting, mature couple. I mean, they were young, but they just had this like amazing. It was so well written. They were just like real.
I forgot she was like, I think my age, or supposed to be my age.
I know she was like younger than me. You know,
and she's the daughter of
Michael Landon.
Yes.
Landon. I'm like, what's her name?
Jennifer. I was about to just say Little House on the Prairie.
Right? And the women, oh my God, the divas. It was like Lisa and Lucinda and Barbara, and it's like this is like
Barbara. I love Barbara.
I love Barbara too. My mom's name is from As the World Turns. I found that my grandmother was like,
really?
Yeah, she's like, that's Lisa. That's where your name came from. I was like,
oh my gosh.
My cousin Kimberly is Days because of Kimberly.
My brother's name is Brandon. If he was a girl, he was going to be a Brenda.
If I was a girl, I was going to be Rachel.
Really?
Yeah, it's from another world. Yep. Yeah. Who I turned out to be afraid of. I know, right? So I was a little boy, and there was a show called The Doctors. It was on before Days. It was on NBC, and there was a character named Carol Lee. And it's so funny. This is like going back like 47 years. And I remember she was attacked. Back then, the storylines would go on forever, So I only saw it once a week on Thursdays with my grandmother. But Carol Lee was attacked, and it put her into like a catatonic state, kind of like Laura was back about 10, 15 years ago. And so one time, I was in the bathroom at my grandmother's house. My mother came home to pick us up. She'd done her grocery shopping and pick us up. And I heard my grandmother and my mother talking about Carol Lee. And what my grandmother was saying was that Carol Lee had a breakdown. But she said, and I was like, remember, I was only like 3 or 4. She said, Carol Lee cracked up. And I was like, I didn't know what that meant. And I just heard her say that. And I just pictured this woman, because I knew Carol Lee from the show. She'd been in the hospital for a long time in a coma. I pictured like she literally cracked up. And the image horrified me so much. So that was worse than Rachel. And it's funny because like when you're a kid, you don't always tell your mom like things you're afraid of. So for so many years, I thought, oh my God, I never want to see the doctors because I don't want to see so funny how like these memories, like you remember it forever, it's such an impression.
Oh yeah, I can't get Marlena levitating off the bed.
That's right.
It's been in my head since '95.
Right, that's right. Yes, that was great.
So did you watch Guiding Light, or
I watched Guiding Light in the last year when it was going to end. I started to watch As the World Turns, and I thought I really want to see. This was the longest show, and as an English teacher too, it's just interesting. And I'm a journalist as well, and I thought, this is amazing. I mean, this is the longest told story in the history of mankind, and it's like, what a shame that we lost it. But I wanted to see what it was. So I watched like the last 9 months of it, and it's such a loss, and I really feel like, I really wish that Procter & Gamble had kind of gone. If it had been a little bit, I don't know. If it lasted a few more years, maybe they would have tried more of a digital platform as well.
I keep telling Tommy that I'm like, if digital platforms would have just been around like 10 years ago, we'd probably still have quite a few soaps. Because I just think everyone works nowadays. There's not really people at home. We can't be at home like we were back then. So how are we going to watch soaps?
Right. We weren't ready yet. Even when they tried to do All My Children and One Life to Live online, we still weren't there yet.
Yeah,
streaming wasn't what it was.
I feel like that company that was doing that was a little they promised us too much and couldn't deliver. They should have went small.
Yeah, that was part of it.
I didn't like the shady thing they did, because some of the characters from One Life to Live went on to General Hospital. I was watching them. I don't really watch GH too much, but every once in a while I dip in. And then that company made them get rid of those characters because they own the rights to them. So that's why all those actors came back as different characters.
Which
was so annoying. And then they didn't even use them. Like, just the rights. Who cares?
Yeah.
It was so annoying.
Roger Howarth and
what's his name? Finn, I think he plays right now. What's his name?
Oh yeah,
Mike
he was McBain was right.
Yeah, Mike Leeston.
Yeah.
Because him and Sam had something going on, and I was kind of into it, and then he left the show.
Yeah,
and came back as a different character.
Right. And even then, I remember a lot of people were saying like they just didn't understand what Hulu was, and I don't know, maybe just if it had been a few years later, it would have worked better. Because I knew what it was, but I learned what it was for these shows. But a lot of people just weren't ready to. And now that is how I watched. General Hospital is through Hulu, and it's like I think if they just held on a little bit longer, I don't know.
See, that's me, and then I upgrade to the commercial free so I can watch my soaps like that.
32 minutes, yeah, it's great.
I always hear that Procter & Gamble wanted out of soaps. I wonder if
I heard too.
That would have stayed if the streaming had come along. Maybe they would have seen it as like a lucrative opportunity.
Maybe. I mean, I always thought, they are the biggest advertiser in the world. If they had wanted those shows to stay on the air, I'm sure they would have had the clout to get CBS not to cancel them.
Guiding Light just was at the very bottom. Like that was I think the whole reason for not even continuing was just,
it's so sad because I remember tuning in towards the end too. And like when they were filming in Jersey and PPAC.
Yeah.
The sets weren't what they used to be. So I'm currently watching Guiding Light from like 99 because I was like, I want to see when Crystal Chappelle started.
Yeah.
And I found a whole playlist of like full years. So I'm watching it, and now I'm like really into Guiding Light, and I'm not watching what I'm supposed to be watching. I watch another episode of Guiding Light.
We're really into sets too.
I'm seeing
like,
those sets, and I'm like, that's not how it was when it ended.
Right.
They were at this hotel, and I was like, that's like the whole Horton Square.
On days. Yeah.
They all lived at the hotel on Guiding Light.
It was Ray. What's her name?
Riva.
Riva, and her guy was like walking through their little penthouse at the hotel. I was like, that's the whole Horton Square. Right there in that set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I miss the 80s and 90s.
We're lucky with GH that they still do seem to spend the money on the sets. I think it's like, that there's the new pool set at the Metro Court and stuff, and it makes a difference,
Well, yesterday on Friday's days, they're like, ooh, let's meet Allie and them at the new bar. I was like, oh my God, we're getting a new set. We're no longer having drinks at Julie's.
Right.
I was so excited.
And how amazing is it too that like we have characters like her, Susan Seaforth's been doing it for 50 years almost. It's like that's one of the great things about soaps. I've watched like Leslie Charlson, since I was a little boy. I've watched her grow from her 30s to now like in her 70s, and it's like to be able to see like one actor play one character over decades. Soaps are really precious because of what they offer us like that.
What's her name from GH? Robin Scorpio? Kimberly.
Yeah, I watched her grow up. She's a little girl, and now she's an adult, and it's like,
When Mrs. Horton died, like that episode where they had her funeral, me, my mom, my grandmother, like we gathered around like we were saying goodbye to a family member. Because I remember actually crying too. I was like, "Oh my God, Grams is dead."
Yeah. If you watch someone every day, or like however many times they're on, 5 days a week, or 3 days a week through characters and stuff for like over the course of 20, 30 years, they do become part of you. I can't imagine how I will feel if GH goes off the air, because I was devastated when As the World Turns was done, and I'd watched it for like 7 years. GH, I can't imagine how I would feel, because I literally watched it since I was 3, so I can't imagine.
I don't think they're going to go off anytime soon, especially after the backlash after All My Children and Home Life to Live. But I keep saying to Aaron, I do think if they do go off of networks, that they'll be exclusively on streaming.
I would hope so.
That's kind of our theory too with Beyond Salem. Is kind of like a test run to see how many people flock to Peacock for a day.
Yeah, right. It's important that people do.
Because look at the press they've gotten.
Right. I think Days must be the highest streamed show on Peacock, and that's why they're doing this. Because I don't know, something's up.
Yeah, because they for years they just kept slashing the budget.
Yeah,
like the Days budget is like the higher ed budget; it just gets slashed every year.
Now I don't know if this is true. Maybe somebody was just saying some misinformation on Twitter. But they were saying, we're getting a pilot, we're getting a new like spinoff, and they're throwing more money at them. I'm like, they are.
Wow.
I'm like, does that mean we're gonna get better sets?
It's like Days has been at the gas station playing the scratch offs. Money for
and they finally get it
for a budget.
Right.
Do you know who Jamie Giddens is from Daytime Confidential? Okay, I'm excited for him because he got that writing position, the breakdown writer. Yeah, because he explained what he's going to be doing, and he's going to be breaking story with Ron, and Jamie knows the history.
Yeah,
so I'm really excited for what's going to happen because he can collaborate with Ron and tell good stories.
See, people have been upset with Ron, but I'm just like, he's paying attention to the history more than any writer that we have had in the past for a while.
He loves soaps too,
Yeah, and he never watched these, so he's doing great for somebody who never watched these and everything.
I want to be like, we could have Dina Hagley again, or whatever it was. So be happy we have Ron. Nothing against her, but she ruined One Life to Live, and then went to Days and ruined it, and it just.
It seems to happen a lot. They kind of they kind of fail upward, which is really strange. A lot of people have done a lot of damage across the spectrum to soaps, and they have constantly been employed too, which is crazy.
Yeah, see, that's what I was about to say is they need to stop rehiring the same people and give new people a chance.
Yeah.
Right now, out of all of the people that have cycled through all the shows, I think Ron is the best one for Days right now.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
Because he's
He did really good
to
work with
James
it.
Riley.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
I watched One Life to Live when Ron was writing for it, and I enjoyed those storylines.
So did you guys watch
enjoyed
any
the
Passions?
GH.
Oh yeah, he was good at GH. After a while, it got a little bit too lighthearted for me for GH, but he was very good in the beginning. That's the thing. I think new head writers come in with great ideas and stuff, but after a few years, I think they just need to take a little break because you get. But so did you guys watch Passions when that was?
Yeah.
Well, that was around the time I actually started watching.
I was
like, ooh, a new soap.
That's the whole. I'm so excited because all the other soaps had been on for 30 plus years. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting to watch a soap from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like that had never happened before.
It never happened to me either. I watched it from day one. Yes.
My mom was sad as Another World was leaving, but I was just like, yay, Passions.
Yeah.
And it was like a Dark Shadows type thing. So I was really into that.
But they didn't promote it like that.
Oh no,
they tried to be like mysterious about the supernatural part at the beginning, and I was like, "What is this with the talking doll?" Like, really? Like, even for me, I don't think I was getting what they were trying to do.
I remember the promos, and all it was like two people rolling around on the beach, or and I was like, they were playing into that whole Passions aspect. Like, I was thinking, this show's just going to be about sex, and then an angel's the first thing you see.
No,
I'm confused. The promo doesn't match the show. What am I watching?
I was gonna say when they bailed on that was a really bad sign because that was like the last new thing that networks tried, and it's really popular with kids too. That was like, I remember reading somewhere that it was like number one in the 12 to 11 Nielsen demographic, or 2 to 11, which is amazing, little kids. So it's like, you think that would have been the future of soaps, and it's like that's
why it lasted as long as it did, because it had that demographic that most soaps don't get, that like 14 to 18.
Yeah, right.
I've watched it on YouTube, like episodes here and there, and I kind of come at it differently now, and it's actually good for how bad it is. I kind of take it as like a parody of a soap.
You have
like the way that they used to be so over the top, and like one day would last like 3 months, and like.
But then you would fly to Paris, and it's like commercial break. It's like, oh, okay.
And Aaron and I always said, like, the minute like something big was revealed, we're like, this is a dream, because they would have like almost whole episodes be like a dream. Or like
I was watching a clip the other day, and it had Teresa like talking about what she was doing, and it's like just blah blah blah. I was like, oh my god, how did you memorize that to get that whole? Like, I had to stop Gwen from getting the truth from a newspaper reporter about Ethan's paternity that I did it. Blah blah. I was like, wow, you talking faster than the Gilmore Girls.
She had to like fill everybody in who was just tuning in for the first time.
If you tune in for that first episode, you got the first 8 years worth in 5 seconds. I mean, I honestly think she's what made that show too. If she would have left, I think it would have been like boom.
Yeah,
she was a great heroine.
Did you watch Port Charles?
I actually didn't, which is strange because I was such a GH fan, but I never did. No.
Oh, really?
No.
I got into it for a little while when it went a little supernatural.
Yeah.
I didn't stick with it, but I like vampires, so when they were doing vampires, I was really
I think I did watch a little bit of that because I remember that Amanda Barrington was in it, and she gave her fortune away to Caleb, who is the vampire, Michael Easton character. So I watched it because of that, because Amanda Barrington was like a 80s kind of character. She's on the hospital board and rich lady. She was interesting. I think that was the end of her. So.
Tommy wanted us to watch it, and I was like, okay, fine. And then then I get to the part where Julie Penson's in there. I'm like, know your audience. Just sleep with her. Just tell me she's in it.
Well, she was a newcomer then.
She was so good on As the World Turns as Janet. Oh my gosh. She was great on As the World Turns. She played this character, Janet. She was one of the most realistic people I've ever seen on the soap. She was a waitress, and it was a diner, and she was just like it was just well written and well acted. It just seemed very like real. As the World Turns was more of like realistic, the acting. I think. I mean, not to put the onus on the actors themselves. I think it was written in a way like the Snyder Farm, that was an amazing regular people kind of set. And, that was, oh God, As the World Turns. I love that.
I didn't really watch it till Luke came on, but when they recast Lily, for some reason you would have thought I had been a fan since the beginning, because I was like, why are we recasting Lily? No. Like I was like, why am I so invested? I've only been watching this for a few months.
But I actually like the recast.
Oh, I did too.
I had a problem with it at first too, because I was like, she's been on since the 80s. Meanwhile, I've only been watching since 2005.
It's easy for Tommy and I to get very connected to a soap opera really fast. We fall hard.
Well, what really got me, man, was she, at the end of the show for the last week, the recast Noelle Black, she offered to step aside for Martha Byrne to come back, and the producers declined. And that was one of those decisions where I've never understood that, and I never will, because it would have meant the world to the fans. And I don't, there's a lot of things that go on soaps that we as a viewer see, and like, we can read about it, follow on Twitter, listen to podcasts, but you never really know. And there's one of those mysteries that like, I will never understand what went through Chris Gottman's head when he heard Noelle, but when Noelle Buck said that to him, and he was like, no, it's okay. Just play out the rest of the character.
See, they could have even done like Sarah Michelle Gellar did when she came back and played like just something to give the fans like a little something. Because
she could have just stepped into role. Nobody would have cared. It just would have meant so much to us. But I don't know. I don't know why.
Probably about money. I don't know why. It's always about money, it seems.
It's funny because I really don't think it was. I think it was just like, I don't know, spite, or they were mad at they were mad at her because she wanted the same money that she was getting. That's why they recast her. And it was like one of those mistakes where like cutting, a money decision is going to hurt them so much. You should just like, this is where the money should go, Yeah. But
See, I'm shocked some days characters are still there because the budget gets cut so frequently and they take a pay cut sometimes.
Yeah, but if you look at their guarantees, like Marlena, like John and Marlena's story usually amps up around the end of August, and then they go into the fall, and then you don't really see them so much for a few months. They're just kind of in and out. It all has to do with their guarantees and their contracts.
See, I actually like though how Days does the like kind of the rotating door, because
I like that too.
I enjoy that. I think more soaps should do that.
Because then you get to see a lot of people from the past like cycle and they come for like 6 months.
Like Sierra coming back. Like there's only so many times you can break Sierra and Ben up before you're just like, okay, I can get up.
Yeah.
So
I laughed today because I saw a headline that was like Chad and Abby having marital problems, and
I was like, didn't they have marital like when they first got married?
Aaron feels like that's their only story. He's like,
now, how often is Maggie on? I always loved her.
Well, right now she's been out because of some health reasons, I believe.
Oh, she has been. Really?
I think she's supposed to be coming back soon.
Oh, good. I mean, she has an autoimmune thing in real life. I know.
I think that was something with it.
Yeah, she probably has to be careful with COVID.
Yeah, I really miss John Aniston, but like I want him to be so careful.
Yeah.
Tom, we will have to, the day something happens to that poor sweet man, we will have to wear black because Tommy will be in mourning.
I've been praying for that man for 10 years, like because he's in like late 80s now.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I know one day they're gonna kill him off. I just know it. And they kept
if he's lasted this long, they probably will let him. They probably won't until he actually.
I hope so. Like, I don't want him to like risk his health by going into work, but I miss him.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of
worked during COVID. We've seen him.
They kind of had him on Friday's episode. The episode. Well, they said he started this food fight or something that Bonnie and Justin was part of. Like the episode just starts with them like. Well,
was he in it?
No, but that's what I'm saying. He was kind of part of it.
And by the way, though, good for Judy Evans, to speak out to today. It's like,
oh my gosh, yes, I retweeted her. I was like, get him, girl, get him.
Yes. Her and Nancy Lee Grahn are really outspoken on the issues, safety and COVID and stuff. And
it was good. It was interesting. She was like, if you can wear a seatbelt to protect yourself, if you can wear a condom, even though it's not foolproof. You can wear a mask.
Exactly.
Well, Judy had COVID. She was hospitalized.
Oh, she did. That's right. She did have it. I forgot she had it.
Yeah.
And really,
time.
I could see like why it should be mandated for soap actors, because they have to be to make it seem real. They have to be close up. They have to be unmasked, and it's like they should get vaccinated. It's ridiculous. People like Leslie Charleston, who is almost, you're exposing child actors and older actors, and just even actors that were in the prime of their life. You're exposing them. It's ridiculous. So good for her.
They were some of the first shows to go back into production.
Right.
And I remember tuning into them as they slowly started coming back to see how they were going to do this.
I wish
it was so awkward watching Y&R, watching them have arguments and conversations from across the room. I'm like, I can't do this.
Now, didn't B&B use a mannequin for one scene or for scenes?
I think so. And then they had like real life spouses coming in for kissing scenes.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Which I think Days did with Matt Ashford. And Katie McCann.
Interesting. No, you're getting paid to just make out with your spouse. And it's not. You're like, this isn't even my show, but I'm getting paid to make out with my spouse.
Yep.
Give me that money.
But we're forgiving. So fans, like whatever it takes. It's like it was so great when they came back. I remember watching it with GH. As it got closer to where they ran out of episodes, they would do more and more flashbacks, and it was annoying. But at the same time, like you really felt like, to quote Days, the sand was running out of the hourglass, and it was an awful thing to see that and think, oh my God, they're going to run out of episodes for the first time in history.
I was a little nervous. This was like the final nail in the coffin for.
I actually was.
I was like, I think COVID's going to take my soaps. Yeah. Which that's not. I know that's not important on the grand scheme of things, but
to a lot of people,
it's a way to escape reality when you can't do other things. So I really liked when Y&R and B&B were showing old episodes, because it kind of reminded you why you loved it. Like
I watched the first episode of Y&R. That was so great. Yes.
Yeah.
Like I want to watch more Catherine.
Brenda Dixon. I want to see Brenda Dixon.
What's her name? Catherine
Chancellor.
Yes. I want to see more with her. Like I hate that I missed all of that as a child because I don't know.
I'm slowly doing a late 90s watch of Y&R also, but Guiding Light kind of has my heart right now.
Now, when the Guiding Light you're watching, who is Alex? Is it Beverly McKinsey, or is they switch over to Marge Doucet? Beverly McKinsey was Iris on Another World, and the blonde Alexandria. Or is she not on the show?
I know who you're talking about. I haven't seen her yet.
Oh, okay.
She's on yet.
When she comes back, it'll probably be Marge Doucet, who was really great too. And then Joan Collins played her for a while.
Oh, on Guiding Light?
She was. Yeah, she was on Guiding Light for a little while. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she wasn't on there long.
No, it was kind of like, I think the pace was. And she had a book coming out too, so she left. But I watched it when she was on it though.
Wasn't Donna Mills on General Hospital a few years ago?
Yes. And she looks just as good as she did on Knots Landing.
Oh my God, I love Knots Landing.
Oh my gosh, Knots Landing's the best. I know.
Aaron's watching it for the first time. He's watching season 2, so we're going to talk about that in another episode soon.
Season 2 is a little bit boring, but a little bit kind of depressing. I believe that's after Sid died. Sid died, yeah.
No, Sid hasn't died yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if
I know he dies. I mean, my theory is this show aired 80.
Yeah. I was going to say it was 30 years ago. So
almost 40 years ago.
Well, Aaron also has a bad habit of researching stuff about shows and spoiling.
I was watching the first 25 of Beau and the Beautiful, and I had just had to know what happened to Caroline. I was like,
he's like, I love Caroline so much. I'm just the researcher, and he's like,
and then she
dies.
Oh my God!
Like she gets raped, then she dies, then they get rid of her. What? Like I was so heartbroken.
And you're like, she has a twin, and she's a lesbian.
That's right, Crystal Chappelle. So I was like, woohoo!
And she's married to Crystal Chappelle. Yeah.
Crystal Chappelle in it, and
all the Dallas actors were on Bold and Beautiful eventually too. I think like Linda Gray was on it, and Patrick Duffy, and
Patrick Duffy was.
It was nice to see those nighttime people. And I'll tell you, Knots Landing, when Donna Mills comes on the show and when it gets rolling, Mac after that is like done. You know, if it's kind of downbeat for a while, but then it starts to really pick up steam.
I've got a few comments about Donna Mills. I can't wait for our Knots Landing.
You should have me on that show. Oh my God, I was a fanatic about Knots Landing.
We found a lot of people that listen to our show or watch it were Knots Landing fans. Like we did not realize there's that many Knots Landing fans.
It truly was the best of the soaps because it was the most serious, well-written one. And you know, they talk about it being grounded in reality. It was for many years, like with they're in the cult. There was a while that got to be like super rich and kind of dynasty glitzy stuff, but overall, it was realistic. Yeah.
It also made me real like when Karen was protesting about like pretty much climate change and things like that. I'm like, have we always been talking about this stuff? Can we not fix it? Like, oh, let's fix it.
Yep.
Yeah, we should have you on for a Knots Landing episode.
Oh my gosh, I would be the expert in that because I watched it. I watched it when it was first on, then I watched it twice through on SoapNet.
Oh, so
it's on YouTube if you also want those links.
Well, I will check out the best. I think the season 4 cliffhanger season finale. It's called Negotiations. It is the greatest cliffhanger of all times, I have to say. If you remember, it's when the when Abby's. I don't want to spoil you, but you know, all this business kind of mafia stuff comes to a head, and there's someone who almost died, someone gets shot, someone gets kidnapped.
Season 5.
Season 5. It is the greatest season finale of a nighttime soap of all times. So.
Season 4 was the murder.
Oh, a CG, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's good too, though. So, Aaron, you're in for a treat. Oh my gosh, I'm jealous because you get to see all this stuff for the first time.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. My only comments about season 2 has been like the one that I can't stand. I'll just share it because I'll share about it later too. Donna Mills, kind of like her and her nephew. It was kind of like, I was like. What kind of show is that?
Oh, Sid just watched that because I'm trying to be on the same page as him. And he said, Aunt Abby, you look neat or something. And she's like, thanks, buddy. And she like winks at him. It was like this weird
it was like so flirtatious that I was like, stop it.
I know, right.
And then so her and Richard, I'm like, his wife is right there. You're pretty much sitting on his lap.
That was Abby.
I watch Knots Landing. I think I love Laura more and more each time I watch it.
Oh, I'm liking her more and more too.
I didn't always love her, but I love her. Because I just feel like she's very like she looks stone cold, but she says so much with her eyes.
Yeah.
Like now that I know what's happening, I can pay attention to like the little like nuances that they do, and I love that show so much.
She was a good character because she was like kind of stood out from a lot of the action and was like the observer and was like the surrogate for us, you know. And she had this kind of wry
housewife.
She was absolutely, yeah. She was great. When she leaves, when she left, it was a huge loss, but.
Brain tumor, right? Brain cancer.
Those are 2 really good episodes too. When she finally they realize that she is dead, there's a 2-part episode where they deal with like the aftermath of her death, and the actors improvised it. They improvised what they would do, and the producers taped all the improvisation. Then they wrote it as an actual script when they play it. It's based on this improvisation exercise. You have to look that up. So it's those 2 episodes. It's episode 100 and 101. So it's like special episodes. And it's really very profound. And like it's the characters react in ways that you wouldn't have expected because they let the actors have so much input into it. So those are really good. You know?
So Joan Van Ark was on Young and Restless, and so was Ted Shackelfeld, but not at the same time. And their characters end up together, and it made me so mad that we couldn't get like that reunion on Young and Restless like 15 years ago.
I like I watched when her character was on there, and wasn't she a little bit more?
She was Gloria, right? The first Gloria.
Yeah. It wasn't
Gloria. Do you know who Gloria is?
Aaron? Yes.
Oh
From
yeah, yeah,
Days?
please. Yes.
Leo's mother.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah,
So,
I know.
they also play mother and son on Young and the Restless.
Really?
They played mother and son on Days and Young and the
Yeah.
Restless.
Oh, wow.
But wasn't
Judy Chapman is great.
Oh, I
when
love her.
Gloria first came on, wasn't she supposed to be like a little bit more trashy?
I think so.
At
Like,
first, I think,
okay.
yes. Yeah.
Because when they recast her, I felt like she just got very glamorous and sophisticated. And I'm sorry,
She was trying to marry John Abbott, right? At first to like get his
Yeah.
money, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tommy knows I have an obsession with characters like Bonnie Lockhart, who are a little bit, you know.
There needs to be more characters like that, like down to earth ones. I saw a tweet yesterday of where they were talking about 24 years ago, probably 34 years ago. Rose gave Kelly's diner to Ruby, and it was like, the characters like Ruby, you probably don't remember her, but she was Luke and Bobby's aunt, and she was like, this like earthy character. She'd been like a madam of a house of prostitution, but when she was on General Hospital, she ran the diner, but she was like, this like down to earth kind of perfect. And soaps used to have more people that were like, it used to be like you had a family that was rich, a family that was poor, a family that was, most were like middle class. And I think that's one thing that I wish they could get back to more, is having not everyone be rich, because
Yeah.
they really are on soaps nowadays. They're all like, money's not really a thing. Where it'd be interesting if it were,
That's true. So I never really watched Young and the Restless regularly. When I started watching Days, it was like the last Blast crew. So that was like Philip, Chloe, Belle, and Sean that are on the show now. They were teenagers back then. So I remember tuning into the other shows trying to find the comparable group of kids to my group. And I remember I tuned into The Guiding Light for a little bit, and it was like Danny, Michelle, and Mara. And then I remember tuning into Young and the Restless, and I remember being obsessed with JT and Colleen.
Mhm.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I remember Jason.
And I liked them I would only tune in for them. I would fast forward through the whole thing. If they weren't on, I wouldn't even watch the episode. And then they brought in Lauren Fenmore, who I didn't know was a long-term character with the show. And she started like an affair with JT, and I hated her. I was like, who is this? So taking JT away from Colleen, and I stopped watching. And then I started watching again years later, and I was like, oh, she's important to the show. She's like a legacy character.
She's still on it now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
She's like Sheila Carter's arch nemesis.
Now, whoever's doing that Twitter account for her, I think it's the real Sheila Carter. It's really great. That's a really good account. It's fun. Yeah. I don't know if that's like an official thing. It probably isn't, but whoever's behind that, whatever fan is behind that account, is like, bravo.
It's great.
Really
I have never seen Sheila. I have never seen clips, so I've never seen her in action. So I'm like really excited about this return.
So
the minute she came back, I was like, she crazy still.
Now, who's Eileen Davidson gonna play on the Peacock, the streaming thing?
She's gonna play Kristen Namara.
Okay,
and one of her nun character again.
I look forward to that.
You better play Susan.
Yeah, Susan.
I hate anytime we like. I don't remember seeing EJ and Susan ever together. Like, I'd like to see mother and son interact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of hope she makes an appearance on the main show. I know Eileen kind of like took a step back from acting. And
she did?
Like a one-off thing for. I know she makmakes like random returns to YNR for like a guest spot, but she's pretty much not on the show anymore. Which is why they casted Kirsten with Stacey Hyduke. But I don't know. I just wanted her to come back for a little bit, just like a month. Like,
is she on YNR though? I mean, is she done with soaps, with acting completely? She's not on YNR.
She'll make occasional appearances, but maybe like for a week, and then she's gone from like months at a time again.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wow. Yeah, she doesn't really come for like a story. She just comes for like a visit.
Wow.
Yeah.
It'll be great to see her as Kristen. Now that was something that I did watch when she was Kristen and Susan, and she was the nun, and she was a lot of people at one time.
She was 5 different characters.
I know, it's amazing.
Which is probably why she left the show.
Yeah.
I read something that James Riley, the writer at the time, actually wrote her an apology for everything he put her through. Having to do that. Because you figure like a soap does like 250 episodes a year. And I remember there's a Jason 47's Days webpage, and he has like the episode counts, and she was in like over 200 episodes.
Wow.
But he did that to his Passions actors too. Like Teresa was in over 200. Luis would be in over 200. Sheridan, like, he abused his actors.
No, you can tell who his favorites were.
Yeah.
Passions was like that a lot. Yeah, you would see a lot of people. Yeah, almost every day. Tabitha,
Yeah. But as Eileen Davidson, like, I'm so excited about this because I never thought I would see her play the role again. And even if this is it, like, thank God at least we got one more time.
And it's 1 week, right? It starts in a week. It's September 6th, right?
Yeah, Labor Day.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Aaron and I are gonna go live for it.
Oh, that's great.
We're gonna attempt it. Our first live.
Oh, good for you. I'll have to make sure I tweet there for you. I'll watch it too. I'll watch your thing.
But all right.
So what time will that be on? What, like at midnight, or I'm sure you'll be doing it live.
They typically do it just from like Netflix and things like that. Whenever 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. is for Los Angeles.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So probably be 3 a.m. here.
So you guys gonna be on 3 a.m. on Labor Day?
Oh God, no.
No, we're gonna go live at noon.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds great.
Yeah. So it should be fun.
Yeah.
And then after the week is over, we're gonna do a whole episode dedicated to the whole series. So
Will it be like on every day a new episode, or it's like all at once?
every day new episode.
Good. That's a good way to do it. Yeah, that's what HBO has been doing with their shows, and Hulu with 9 Perfect Strangers and stuff. And I think that's good. I think it's good to start with two in the beginning. Then you kind of get into it, like American Horror Story did that, and then like they have one, every week, because otherwise, I think you do binge watch it, and then you kind of like you don't appreciate it as much as if you look forward to it. Like, oh, it's Thursday night, so this is the night that there's a new Hacks, or Sunday night is when Mare of Easttown is on. It's like you really kind of have the anticipation and you kind of savor it more.
Yeah.
So.
But thank you so much for coming on.
This has been fantastic. So whenever you want me, I would be happy to, and I will try to get my backdrop up, but I'd be happy to do this again. I really enjoyed this. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.